Good morning. Bonjour. Hyvää huomenta. Learning a foreign language is an opportunity for fruitful international communication. American Toastmasters are often amazed by Toastmasters from other countries who speak English confidently. Our speaker for this session, Bausor, wants to help you to discover that you, too, can easily learn another language. As language teacher for many years, she knows many tricks to learn languages that has nothing to do with grammar. She will share these surprising techniques with you. Bausor is English and founded her own language training company called ILTC France. As a Toastmaster since 2010, she trains others to give speeches, hone their presentation skills, and boost their self-confidence. She is 2 times TEDx talker and 2 times Toastmaster of the Year. Please help me welcome speaker, entrepreneur, Bausor.
Thierry. Thank you. Thank you. Are you excited about coming to Paris next year? Yes. Stick your hand up if you're going to come and say, oui, oui, oui. That's amazing. You're speaking French already. Just wait till the end of the session. So, I'm here today, and first of all, I have a little confession to make. Because the title to this workshop was censored. Yeah. My original title was Any Idiot Can Learn a Foreign Language, Even You. Now, I'm sorry. That was, of course, totally disrespectful, and obviously, Toastmasters was not going to let me use that non-politically correct word. Of course, what I should have called it was, any idiot can learn another language, even you. Because by talking about another language, I'm reminding you, hey, you already speak one. So how difficult can it be to learn another? But if I use the word idiot, please forgive me, I don't want to be disrespectful to you. I'm just referring to that feeling we sometimes get if we're trying to speak in a language and all that comes out is ba, 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 ba. You know that horrible feeling? So we're going to dispense with that. We're going to zap it totally and replace it by a much better feeling connected with speaking another or a foreign languages. Is that okay with you? Great. Okay, so yes, I am English. And when I was a young and foolish teenager, as opposed to an old and foolish English teacher, I lived in a little town in England, which was rather cold and rather boring. But hey, you know, every teenager in the world thinks their hometown is boring, right? And I had a fantasy. I fell in love with everything French. The language, the literature, the cinema, the wine, the men, all of that. And my dream, my obsession, was to go to France. So this is what I did. I used to tune in to the radio and try and understand the songs they were singing in French. I would buy French reviews and magazines and try and understand the articles. And I would go to the shop and buy myself a packet of Gauloise cigarettes. Not a good idea. But years later, I realized that my language learning strategy, apart from the cigarettes, had not been so bad at all. And after school, I went to France to learn French for a year. Over 30 years later, I'm still there. Now, hopefully, this is not because my learning is very slow. It's rather because I'm still learning so many other things. And especially my speciality is the teaching and the acquisition of foreign languages. And my company teaches all sorts of languages all over France. Amongst our clients are the prestigious Château de Versailles, that I hope you'll be visiting next year, where we teach a total of 8 different languages to the guides there. So, that is great. Now, what I have discovered in my studies, going back to this horrible feeling, is that we make things difficult for ourselves as far as language learning is concerned. We really make it a little bit complicated. One of the reasons for this is because when we were at school, we learnt a foreign language, and that experience was not always positive. Do you have an experience like that? Can you put your hand up? Learning a language, and it didn't quite work out. Very often, the result goes from not effective at all to totally catastrophic. But cast your mind back to your awkward 12-year-old self. When you were in a classroom surrounded by 30 other awkward 12-years-old, the hormones beginning to surge. And on the one hand, you're so curious about learning new things. But on the other hand, you have a fear of looking stupid in front of the other pupils. And when the teacher corrects your 12-year-old self, takes your words and tells you that's wrong, you feel sick to your stomach. And that pain, that sickness, you may still have that with you. Because what do we do as adults? We take emotions and we make connections. And that is not good. But there's another reason connected with school. It's very likely that your teacher attempted to teach you a foreign language using exactly the same approach that he or she had been taught with. That is, they took various grammatical structures, they tried to explain them. You didn't even know what they were talking about in your native language, these grammatical structures, but never mind. Let's have a look at them in a foreign language. We'll explain them again. We'll practice again and again and again and again until hopefully the use of this grammatical structure becomes automatic. And then you get to the fun part. You get to use the structures in real communication. Now, there's a little problem with this approach. It's quite simple. Doesn't work. It never works. It never has worked. There is no one in the whole world who has ever learnt a language through the conscious application of grammatical rules. This thing, can you see the delayed gratification? We can't wait that long to get to the fun part. We've tuned out hours and hours ago. It's so important for you to get this, guys, that I'm going to tell you in French. It doesn't work. Ça ne marche pas. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Ça ne marche pas. Can you repeat that? Ça. Hey, can we have some body language here? We're Toastmasters, right? Ça ne marche pas. Okay, and we're absolutely certain of it, and so we go, ça ne marche pas. You want to be seductive and convincing, and you say, ça ne marche pas. What? Yeah, it really doesn't work. So that is the bad news. So why is it that teachers carry on trying to teach us this way? Well, the thing is, teachers represent that very, very small category of people who love grammar. So of course, they assume that you do too, and they keep on reproducing that same old, tired, ineffective model. There are some more reasons why we make it difficult for ourselves to learn a foreign language. And since the beginning of this convention, we have been hearing about what we call limiting beliefs, right? Things that we have in our head, things that we say to ourselves to explain just why it is that we're not succeeding at a given thing. You know what I mean? Are you okay for confession time? Would you like to turn to the person next to you and confess if you have some sort of reason that you repeat to yourself to explain why you're not so good at speaking Spanish or French or Mandarin or whatever? Could you do that? Okay, go. Okay. Okay. Hey guys, that is one packet of limiting beliefs. I think we better zap them quickly. The first limiting belief that I hear all the time is this one. Well, I'm just not gifted for languages. Anybody? Oh, okay. If you were in France, you would probably say, I'm just not gifted for languages. And in fact, French people in general are not gifted for languages. Hello? What do you need to speak a language? You need some very basic equipment. A tongue, 2 ears, lungs to circulate the air, and half a brain is not so bad. French people seem to mostly have that stuff. I don't know what this gift is for languages. You know, who distributes it? The God of languages? When does he give it out? And how come some people missed out? Do you really think that your genetic system is different and that you don't have the language gene? Come on, guys. Doesn't that sound a little bit like people who say to you, I'm just not gifted for public speaking? Yeah? Ha-ha. Second limiting belief. I don't have a musical ear. Anybody? Well, research tends to indicate that there is no correlation between people who are not great at music and their capacity to speak another language. However, there is a little thing connected to the music of a language, because different languages do have different musicalities, as I'm sure you've noticed. babies, before they are born, have a hearing system which allows them to perceive all different sounds around them. And as early as the age of 3 months, French babies, when they babble, don't sound the same as Indian babies when they babble. That is, our hearing begins to be selective. If you're exposed to lots of different languages when you're young, your ears stay open and you can perceive the sounds more easily. But for the rest of us, our ears shut little by little until the age of 12 when they are no longer plastic. And there are some sounds that we just can't hear. And so when we try to pronounce them, we're pronouncing the nearest equivalent in our own language. Another aspect of musicality is the rhythm, and this is the biggest difference between the Romance languages and English, the use of rhythm. Rhythm in English is totally irregular. So we say things like confidently, ta-ta-ta-ta, language, papa, elephant, pa-pa-pa. You know, it's just crazy. If you have never heard a word in English, you won't know how to pronounce it. But for native speakers, we cultivate a sense of how to pronounce a word, which enables us to pronounce, hopefully in a correct way, but not always correct, a new word in English. In Romance languages, the rhythmic system is very often much more regular. In French, the rhythmic system is like a metronome. Tuck, 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 tuck. So whereas in English, we're going to say reservation, ta, 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 in French, you'll say réservation. Pom, 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 pom. Easy peasy. All you have to know that, and you get the rhythm right in French, in Spanish, in Portuguese, and in Italian. Next limiting belief. My accent is terrible. Your accent is part of you. It's part of your identity. I still have an English accent when I speak French. And after about 10 minutes, people say to me, where are you from exactly? But why would I want to get rid of that? Because you know what? Your foreign accent is perceived as being charming. Oh, yes, by the person who hears it in their language. Isn't that good news? That's pretty good. Next limiting belief, I don't have time. You don't have time, don't do it. What do we say in Toastmasters? Language learning takes a little bit of time. It takes far less than you would imagine. But yeah, you need to consecrate, you need to devote a little bit of time to your language acquisition or it won't work. Next limiting belief. The language I want to study is too difficult. There's no such thing as a difficult language. Children all over the world learn to speak their native tongue at approximately the same age. And it wouldn't be like that, right? If one language was more difficult than another. What there is a language system which is different from that you're familiar with. But very often you will find that if you want to learn Chinese, Mandarin, for example, well, it's going to help for you to learn a new way of reading and writing. And that's something new that you need to learn. On the other hand, you will be delighted to know that the grammatical system of Mandarin is really, really simple. So it swings and roundabouts. Languages are different. They are not more difficult. And there's one more thing. Where's my Mandarin speaker here? There's one more thing that we need to learn. Things that don't exist in our own language. Huh? I'm going to ask my Mandarin speaker, you got the microphone? Here it is. I'm going to ask my Mandarin speaker to demonstrate something which doesn't exist, which is not pertinent in English, because she's going to give us four different words. Over to you.
Ma, 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 ma.
Yay! They were 4 different words in Chinese. Did they sound the same to you? Uh-huh. What is different is the intonation, the tone, because Mandarin, as many Asian languages, is a tonal language. So if your voice goes up or down or some other direction, is pertinent and totally changes the meaning of the language. So if you're learning a tonal language, you need to get your head and your ear around that. It's not difficult, it's just different. Another limiting belief: I'm too old to learn a foreign language. Research seems to indicate that there are 3 elements which are very important in the prevention of Alzheimer's. Would you like to know what they are? Number 1, drink coffee. Yeah. Yeah. Yoo-hoo! Good news. Real coffee, huh? Not this decaf stuff. Real strong coffee regularly is good in the prevention of Alzheimer's. It might not always be great for your heart, huh, if you drink too much, but yeah. Second thing, reading. Regular reading is good for your mind. Not watching YouTube clips, but reading books, articles, magazines, cartoon books. Anything is good to stimulate your brain. And the third element, which is really good in staving off mental deterioration, is using a foreign language. So the good news is you can do all 3 of those things at the same time. You know, at the break, you go and have a cup of coffee while you're reading a book in French. Yay! So, if one of those limiting beliefs is hampering you, I'd like you now to imagine that you're writing it down on a piece of paper. I am too old. And that you crumple up that piece of paper, and on the count of 3, I would like you to stand up and throw that limited belief as far away from you as you can. Don't hit anybody. 1, 2, 3, go! There's the last one that we have to zap. And that is that feeling small. When you can't find the words, when you can't quite understand, when you don't feel good. And that is the biggest hurdle, maybe, that we need to overcome. Here's a pop quiz for you. Who said this? We learn best in moments of enjoyment. Ralph Smedley. Yes. Who said play is the highest form of research? Einstein. Well done. And who said it is your attitude, not your aptitude, which defines your altitude? Zig Ziglar. That is so great. Well done. I want you to remember those 3 elements because they are so much more useful to you than learning grammar. And what's the problem with learning grammar? Ça ne marche pas. What? That's right. So, how do we go about being proficient in another language? I'm going to teach you 3 things that you need to do that you've never heard before. And yet, you'll understand why they're important. First thing you need to do is define an objective. Duh. You've heard this before. And you know what are the best kinds of objectives. They are SMART, SMART objectives. So that means that you need to define and write down and believe in an objective which is smart and which is important to you, as my objective to get to France was. Let me give you an example. I want to be able, by August 2020, to go into a coffee bar at Toastmasters convention in Paris, to speak to people I don't know in French, and to make 3 new Toastmaster friends. You like it? Mm-hmm. That's a smart objective. And you see, the 3 new Toastmaster friends become your measurement of success. Because very often when we're thinking about foreign languages, we don't measure success. We just measure the mistakes we make. But the guy in the bar, the Toastmaster in the convention in Paris, is not counting your mistakes. He's going, hey, I'm talking to someone in my language. Isn't this cool? So make sure you define an objective, a language objective, in a situation with a measurement and a time frame which is really, really important to you. Okay? That works? Second thing you need to do is to think about your time management. Language acquisition is something that's going to take a little bit of time. And in our busy lives, we need to carve out a niche of time that is sacred, that is devoted to our language learning activity. Create rituals for yourself. Every morning, when you're eating your breakfast, you're doing something in the target language, like reading. When you go to work, on the train or in the subway, you're reading or you're listening. When you're driving your car, you're not reading when you're driving in the car. That's a bit too dangerous. You're listening to something. But create rituals. Create strict timing for when you're going to do this thing. Just as you do to preparing your speech, right? The third thing you need to do is feel the power. To get rid of that feeling small feeling, you need to go into your powerful state. And we do that with our bodies. Yes, Amy Cuddy, that's what she taught us. Put on your power language pose. And what is really interesting, you might be interested to know that different languages have us adopt different physical positions. So you can start playing at Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and start doing things in the target language that you don't do in your mother tongue. How cool is that? Because when you speak in your target language, your physical position is going to change, the tone of your voice, the pitch of your voice is going to change, and you're going to adopt some different behaviors. When we speak in English, it's very relaxed, and we have a set of gestures, and we do what we do in English. If you wish to learn French, you might be interested to know that it's much more physically tense language. Et j'ai besoin de serrer, to clench my jaw. And it comes from here. Come on. The gestures are different. There's one gesture in French, I don't know if you know this one, because in English, we think it's so very French that we've given it a name. And the name is the Gallic shrug. Do you know that one? Oh, I just love demonstrating the Gallic shrug. Okay, let's go. It means, what the hell do I know? It's such fun to do that. So, the three things that you first of all need to launch a successful learning process is, as I've just said, a powerful, irresistible objective, good time management, and feeling the power. Is that doable?
Yes.
It's a doddle. You can do that. So, we know why you were having problems. We know the three things that you have to do first of all. So let's dive into now what you need to know in order to have success in your language acquisition. What is it that you actually have to do? Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of theory once again, because I'm going to go back to that delayed gratification thing, because what I'm going to tell you, the first activity that you need to do, the one that is most powerful, the one that is the most fun, the one that has the biggest impact, and the one that has the greatest return on investment, is going to seem so weird to you that I need to give you a little bit of background. You remember I talked to you about the delayed gratification. This is what is called skill building. And it says that the bricks and mortar of successful language acquisition are the learning and the drilling and the repetition of vocabulary and grammatical structures. And this will lead eventually to fluency. And what did I say about that? I said, ça ne marche pas! But many teachers think, they don't think it's a hypothesis, they think it's an axiom. They behave as though it's true. And so all their teaching and all their testing is at service of this way of doing things. So they're going to give you vocabulary tests. They're going to give you grammar tests. And you might get a low mark and think, oh my God, I'm really not good because I only got 2 out of 3 in the grammar test. I was having a conversation just before the session. And, you know, it occurred to me in the conversation that I wonder what Mark Brown would score on a grammar test. Not necessarily way up there. If we asked him to do a theoretical, written grammar test, which has nothing to do with anything, he probably would say, what is this? What is this? Why do you want me to do this? Because Mark Brown is a word master. He's a master of communication. And he doesn't need to bother with all that grammar stuff. So that's the skill building hypothesis. Now, the hypothesis that I buy into says the opposite. It says, expose yourself to the language. Listen, read, listen. Put as much language into your brain, your body, your system as you can, and one day it's going to overflow. It's a little bit, without shocking you, like peeing. if you drink and drink and drink, one day you got to pee, right? So read and listen and listen and read, and one day, to your great surprise, blah, 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 it's going to come out somewhere. And we never worry about peeing. We never talk about it. We never measure the quantity. We just do it. So, my approach is the Nike philosophy. Just do it. Yes. So that means that this famous activity that I was just talking about, the one that gives the best results, is reading. You surprised? If you read, if you've done a little bit of school French and you read for 10 minutes every day, by the convention in Paris next year, you will be fabuleux in French. You'll be able to speak. But you can say, but that's not speaking. That's just putting language in. But reading is the most powerful source of impact that we can have. If, as children, you were lucky enough to be read to by your parents, if you heard stories with high emotional content, you still remember those stories. You remember them word for word, right? And that's what happens when you read in a foreign language. You need to read things which are fun, things which are so fun that you forget they're in a foreign language. So you need to read things which are just slightly above your present comprehension ability. Because then you'll be able to understand from the context. I say to my students, they say, well, I'm so interested in Harry Potter. Don't read Harry Potter, it's this thick. You're going to be discouraged. Read short stories. Read Toastmaster articles in the target language. Read cartoons. Read whatever turns you on and gives you pleasure. But do it regularly. 10 minutes every day. Little by little, that input is going in, sorting itself out, indicating to you the grammatical, the lexical system. And one day, it's going to come out. The next thing you need to do is listen. Of course, you want to know how the language actually sounds. And once again, listen to things that are just a little bit above your present language ability. Now listen, ladies and gentlemen, we are so lucky because when I started as a language teacher, we didn't have the best teacher in the world. But now we do. And that best teacher in the world is the internet. You have a teacher in every language in the world. You can find snippets, clips on YouTube in any target language. Listen to people who tell stories. Listen to clips that are short, that you can go back to and listen again and again and again and get your head round. Go online and look for things that are fun, that give you a good experience. Listen to songs. Find songs in the target language. Try to understand what they're saying. Write it down. Oui, right, he knows that one. The words of that are kind of weird, huh? But hey, whatever turns you on. Look at the words. Look up the words on the internet. Listen. Repeat. Sing in your bath, sing in your car. When you are singing a song, you are doing a grammatical, lexical, an idiomatic language and a rhythmic exercise. Singing is great. It's one of the reasons we have sing-along sessions here. Okay? Sing songs. Go online and find people with whom you can have language exchange sessions. You know what I mean by language exchange? It means that you sit down with someone else, or you're online, maybe somebody halfway around the world, and you have a conversation. And for 10 minutes, the conversation is in English, and I'm the teacher. After 10 minutes, the timer goes and you switch, and this person, we have a conversation in Finnish, and this person is the teacher. That's a language exchange session. They exist all over the world, but now you can have sessions that you do online. Okay? So language acquisition activities exist. They're at our fingertips now, and it's such an amazing privilege because these are the activities that are going to help us to understand and practice our target language. Now, because we're Toastmasters and we know the importance of words, I'm going to recommend that you never say, I'm learning French, or I'm learning Portuguese. Replace that word, learning, by another one. You see, if you say I'm learning, it means you never get there, because we're always learning in life, right? So if you're learning, it seems to indicate that you have some way to go. Replace the word learning by acquiring. I'm acquiring Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese. How does that sound? As Toastmasters, we know the importance of words. We know how important it is to use the words which will indicate to our mind that we're on the right track. Okay? Do you understand that you don't necessarily need to go to a language class? It so happens that language classes which teach languages using what we call comprehensible input, reading, storytelling, listening, acquiring a language through understanding, it so happens, you know where the capital, the world capital of that approach is? Denver, Colorado. So, yeah, if you live here, you'll be lucky enough to find language classes that don't use grammar. Because here in Denver, Colorado, they know ça ne marche pas. And they do things which are fun, which boost your self-confidence, and which will enable you to learn a language, any language, naturally. So how cool is that? I'm going to demonstrate what I mean. I'm going to tell you a little story in French. If you don't understand, just stick your hand up. And that will now allow me to help you. But I'm going to give you a story which hopefully will be comprehensible to you, even if you only know a little bit of French. D'accord? Okay? Mm-hmm. Wait. Okay. C'est l'histoire. Histoire, story, history, story, same word, histoire. There are so many words that are the same in English and Romance languages. C'est l'histoire d'une petite fille qui s'appelle Martine. Petite fille, pas un petit garçon, une petite fille. Est-ce que la petite fille s'appelle Suzette?
No.
Non. Elle s'appelle Martine. Martine a 6 ans. 6. Pas 5. Pas 10. 6 ans. 6 ans, hein? 6 ans. Martine. Martine est contente. Youhou! Elle est contente. Elle n'est pas triste. Elle est contente. Martine est contente parce que elle est avec son grand-père. Pas sa maman. Non, 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 non. Pas son papa. Non, 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 non. Pas sa grand-mère. Son grand-père. Et Martine et son grand-père vont à la chasse. La chasse. Non, non, non. Non, 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 non. La chasse aux escargots. Eh oui, escargots. Escargots. D'accord? Les escargots, ce sont des gastéropodes. Gastéropodes. Gastro. Stomach. Yeah, too much stomach. Gastro. Pod. Podology. Gastropod. What is the animal? What is the mollusk which has its stomach and the foot at the same place?
Snail.
Yes, l'escargot. Martine et son grand-père vont à la chasse aux escargots. Ils mettent les escargots dans un sac. Un sac, a bag, dans un sac. Et ils les mettent dans la cuisine. Pas la chambre, pas le salon, la cuisine. Escargot. Et le grand-père s'en va. Martine regarde les escargots. Ouh. Elle regarde tous les escargots. Et elle en prend un. Elle le prend. Elle le met dans le jardin. What's the jardin? The garden. Le jardin. Va, petit escargot. Va. Allez, va. Grand-père arrive. Qu'est-ce que tu fais? Qu'est-ce que tu fais, Martine? Tu prends les escargots. Les escargots sont pour manger. Yes! Really? Les escargots, c'est pour manger. They eat snails in France. Pourquoi tu le mets dans le jardin? Martha, il était triste. Il était triste. Mais tu ne peux pas sauver. Sauver. It's like save. Tu ne peux pas sauver tous les escargots. C'est pas possible. Oui, dit Martine. Oui, mais celui-là, je l'ai sauvé. The joy of storytelling. The joy of learning a language, the ecstasy of communicating with a fellow human being in their language, taking the first step towards international communication. Fellow Toastmasters, Do you understand that grammar, ça ne marche pas? But emotion, pleasure, love, and communication, ça marche! See you in Paris! Oh, wow. Thank you, Thierry. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. If your dream is to speak another language, Carol has certainly set you on your way. Make note that this and all the educational sessions will be immediately followed by the Speakers Showcase at Rocky Square Level 2, which is just behind the coffee bar on this level. Please take advantage at a one-on-one session opportunity and go meet Carol over there now. Thank you. Au revoir et à plus tard à Paris.